happy Friday. I am clearly not in my classroom because it is April vacation week. We actually just got back yesterday from Universal Studios and Disney World. We went down last Friday night with my husband and my two boys, and we had an absolute blast, but I am exhausted. Any parent knows that if you go on any longer than like 2-day vacation with kids, you need a vacation when you get home because it's just absolutely exhausting. It was so much fun, don't get me wrong, but the amount of walking we did, going on all the rides, everything, it was a great time was had by all, but now it's time to like get back to normal. My eyes are very dark underneath. My cheeks are all red. I don't know. Let me know if you have any tips, actually. I get very sensitive skin, and my skin has been great for years now, but when I have to use a lot of sunscreen, so this was like 5 days in a row of like heavy sunscreen. I have sunscreen in my normal like tinted moisturizer, which works great, but I have to use like heavy sunscreen and reapply it throughout the day. My cheeks get so red, and they look, I don't know if you can tell, it looks like they're textured, like they get all bumpy. They look bumpy, I should say, but it's not actually bumpy, it's just underneath. So I guess it's just like a bunch of red spots. But if you have a sunscreen recommendation for your face, if you have sensitive skin, let me know about it. That would be great. Also, my melasma is so bad. Anyway, this is not a skincare video, clearly. This is just what happens when I go out and there's heat, even though I wore a hat the whole time and had plenty of sunscreen. But I'm saying all this because I'm going to get a facial later today to hopefully help with a little bit of this. But in the meantime, it is 10 o'clock. I rolled out of bed like half an hour ago. I actually woke up before that, but I wanted to just lay in bed as long as I could before I had to start a real day. My facial is scheduled in about 4 hours, so I figured I would sit down on my computer. The boys are hanging out and relaxing downstairs, so this would be a good time to start planning. And I thought, as you can tell by the title of this video, I thought this would be a good week to bring you along and plan with me, because many of you have asked kind of how I go about planning. Do I plan with my team? I plan with slides, many of you see from my videos. So you can kind of just walk through what it looks like to plan with me this week. Okay, so first and foremost, we meet as a team, as a first grade team. We meet every single Wednesday during our planning time to common plan for the week ahead. So what we did last Wednesday before break is we all got together in one room. We kind of go through the schedule. You might know that at the end of the year, there's a lot of things that just kind of pop up, a lot of meetings, a lot of events for the kids. So we kind of have a plan of what we need to plug in, and then we go through each subject. So step one in planning my week is to take a look at these plans that we did all together. So we actually go ahead and just make a Google Doc that we copy and create a new one each week. So here is a little bit about what it looks like. Plans for the week, 4/22 to 4/26. We keep track of the days of school up here, and then we kind of go through our day. So morning meeting is always going to stay the same. Our Heggerty time is always the same, 8:50 to 9. We just change what week we are working on. And then for foundations, we are hopping into Unit 12. So I had told you before that we did Unit 11, which is our silent E. We kind of skipped ahead, and then we did 9 and 10 after that. So now we are jumping back to 12. Snack and recess. Oh, and then for our genre study, which is kind of our main read aloud time, we are going to be diving into nonfiction. So a lot of times these plans right here that I'm showing you will have just kind of like the basics, and then I actually go ahead and just make a copy of this and share it in my own drive instead of the shared drive, because it has all of my students' names and what services they need to go to and everything. So that way I just print this out. So during genre study, we're going to be introducing nonfiction. Then we have our win time. And again, during my win time, this is blank, of course, but mine has all my students and services that they will need to go to during that time. Looks like in math, we are jumping into chapter 10, which is numbers to 120. We have our special schedule, and then we have informational writing. So this one's not fully updated yet. We do not have early release. So when I go in and do my own plans, I'll make sure I update that, but we just kind of talked about it. We will be doing our zoo project that I mentioned last week. So really, we're going to kind of go through each day of informational writing and have students pick an animal and then start researching and writing about it. And then it looks like science and social studies was not yet updated. So I do think I actually went in already on mine and updated it. So let me pull that up. Okay, so here are what mine look like. You can see they are very similar. I did go ahead and take out all the initials and names for anybody that has services, just so you could really see. Morning meeting integrity looks the same. I do like to add in here for my notes, Unit 12, Week 1, we're going to be doing syllable divisions. We're really diving into 2-syllable words. I should also mention that I share my specific plans, these ones right here that I'm showing you, with about 4 different teachers. Different teachers who I work with on a close daily and weekly basis, who work with my students, just so they know kind of what I'm teaching and if they need to modify anything for the students that are in my class. And then we have genre study. So here I did go into it. I actually picked out the actual read aloud we will be doing. This is just an immersion week, so intro to nonfiction texts, and these are the texts we will read. Polar animals, XYZ space, surprising sharks, penguins, and amazing animal journeys. Now you can clearly see that this unit used to be taught during the wintertime, and we moved it to spring to better align with our PBL project that we're doing about zoo animals. So hopefully in the next couple years, we're adopting a new literacy curriculum, so that won't really matter as much. Also during this time, during the genre study time, is when I would teach something like the language standards that we kind of go over in first grade. Now, we taught contractions just last week or so, and that is not technically a first grade standard, it's a second grade standard, but we just did a little intro during a few of these days because it's 10 to 10:20, and then our reading groups go to 10:50. So sometimes these read alouds are actually pretty short. And we can definitely go into it and talk about it for 20 minutes, but sometimes I leave a read aloud out and instead I'll do a direct lesson. So I'm going to share about that in a moment and how I would do that. But let's just go over the rest of the week. So we have win. Again, I took out students' names. Math is chapter 10. I go into a little more detail about what we will be doing with the numbers to 120. Counting to 120 on Monday, place value ID in practice on Tuesday and Wednesday. Comparing numbers on Thursday, and ordering numbers on Friday. And then in writing, I did go through to see what we would be up to. Writing, it looks like we are doing intro to our project and then choosing an animal. On day 2, we will do our cover page and a directed drawing for the cover page of our books that we will make. How can we classify our animals? Where does our animal live? And then we have a little bit of a catch-up day because we have a mystery reader coming in. And then in social studies and science, I did plan this out as well. Monday is Earth Day, so we will do an Earth Day read aloud and craft. We have a CPU lesson. Now, this is a child protection unit that we do at our school. We have about 6 lessons to go throughout the year, and we can plug them in wherever we see fit. So I'm going to do it on this Tuesday, lesson 5. And then we're going to do the Generation Genius video about animals helping their babies survive. So we'll split this up into 2 days because these lessons are long. So Tuesday we'll watch the video and talk about it. And then on Wednesday we'll do the activity that goes along with the video. And then same for Thursday. We will do an introduction into traits. We'll do the video and activity on that day. It's a shorter activity. And then Friday we usually do free draw and cleaning up at the end of the day. So that is what my plans look like. This I'm going to print out now for myself, and this will guide me as I make my slides. Okay, while that's printing out and I get ready to make my plans, I did mention earlier how sometimes during that genre study, I will pop in some little grammar lessons or some of those language standards from the Common Core. And this is the perfect time to talk to you about IXL. IXL is an online learning program for kids in grades K through 12, and it has a ton of skills-based lessons, activities, and games that teachers can easily find and assign to their students. I use IXL every single day in my first grade classroom, and I am so excited to be partnering with them in today's video. Now, in my past videos, I've talked a lot about using IXL for math review, which I do all the time, but today I also want to mention how I use IXL for some grammar and literacy practice as well. Those small little grammar concepts like contractions, pronouns, and adjectives, they can be really tricky to fit into my daily schedule, so IXL has been a really helpful resource in helping me hone in on those skills. For example, just last week, I taught my students what a contraction was and how we use them. And then to give my students a little bit more practice with this, I assigned some skills and some games over on IXL. Let me show you what it looks like. Now, when we go into IXL and I want to assign skills, I always go up to learning, And then I either look for math or language arts and I press skills. When I get here, I go to first grade. And here you can see some of the language arts skills that are included. There are many different phonics and phonological awareness activities that I've assigned in the past. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see the grammar and mechanics ones. Here, I already starred and highlighted the contractions one, so let's take a look at that. Now, again, I would have assigned this after I already taught my students what a contraction is and gave them many examples. And here, this is where they can really practice it independently. As always, I love that it has the audio version so students can listen to it even if they cannot read the words themselves. This way they know what to do. Here, students will simply go ahead and drag the contraction to the correct spot and press submit. Now, let me show you what happens if they get it wrong, which I also like. Here, if they get it wrong, it shows you that it is incorrect, and then there's an explanation of why. Again, it has all the audio to review what a contraction is, and down here at the bottom, it kind of reteaches students the skills. Now, I also mentioned that there are some fun games I like to assign to students. So if we go back to language arts and over to first grade, you can see up here in the top right corner, there are 27 games for students to practice. Now, the one that they loved for contractions was this one right here called Contraction Action. As you can see, IXL really helps me out as a teacher by keeping students engaged and having fun, all while reviewing the skills I really need them to learn. If you want to try out IXL with your students, they're actually offering a 30-day free trial for teachers and an exclusive 25% off for parents during the first month or year of a family membership. Whether you are a teacher or a parent, you can take advantage of all of IXL's core subjects like math, science, and language arts just by clicking the link in my description. All right, so let's pull up the slides, and I actually make daily slides. I don't know that this is going to be the best option for me as opposed to making skills-based slides like phonics slides for this unit or math slides for this unit, but this is just kind of how I did it this year. It has worked great for me this year because it's really how I plan, but I don't know in the long run if this is going to be the best option for me. I will keep you updated on that. But so I already went in and basically I just make a copy of one of the previous Monday's slides for 4/22 because that is the next day we will be working on things. So let's see, lunch choices. Now I simply pull up the lunch menu for our school. I can see that we're going to be having mac and cheese and not a nut butter and jelly sandwich. So I simply type that in. And I'll tell you too that the hardest day to plan or the longest day to plan is always my Monday, and I'll tell you why. And then I basically just copy the slides over for each day so that it gets a lot easier. Nut butter and jelly sandwich, and then pretzel is always our third. I also am ridiculous and have an entire Google Slides sheet of all of the lunches that we have all year, so that way I can take a quick little copy and paste here so students can see what the options are going to be. Now, my morning meeting slide always looks like this. It just lets students know that it is morning meeting time. Then we go right into our morning message, and I simply change this up. Today is Monday, April 22nd. Today for our special, let me check my plans. We have music as our special. And let's see, we do not only have 5 days left until April break. Let's see. On Monday, the share is just to share how the weekend was. This one will be a little longer because I will ask students to share about their April vacation. I hope you had a wonderful April vacation. Mrs. Jones and her family went to Universal Studios in Florida, and we had a great time riding roller coasters. What did you do over vacation? And then love Mrs. Jones and my aide here, and then I just simply listened to them about how their vacation was. So then we go into the calendar. I already made a calendar for April. This just gets opened up every single time to kind of go over the calendar schedule, which I've showed you before, so I'm not going to spend time doing that. Haggerty slide stays the same. My phonics slide stays the same. I usually have the 3-part drill linked down here. I will do this about 2 to 3 days a week. I have a whole video explaining what the 3-part drill is, but I keep this slideshow up and running and I update it as needed based on the different skills that we have learned. So here's a bunch of the sounds that I expect students to know. I also hope you notice that, I think I mentioned this before, these used to have a visual cue here of like Q-U, queen, qu. Now I just showed the letters and I expect them to just look at it and say qu, e, sh, ang, as quickly as they can. And then down here is the auditory drill where I will say a sound and they have to spell it in sand or on a bumpy board in some sort of multisensory or kinesthetic way. And then we go into blending sounds. And again, I change this up every single time we do one of these drills. It's really easy because I just keep this slideshow going and I'll just go in and, change this pattern to AI. And see if they can go ahead and blend it. So it only takes a minute or two for them to look over. I will probably have us do the 3-part drill on Monday because we're introducing a new unit and it's been a week off. So I want to do some quick review for that. Now, when it comes to planning for phonics, I don't like to carry all the books around. Everything has a digital component. So basically you will see that by the end of this, I will have a ton of tabs open, but that's okay. That's how I'm used to doing this. And all I do is log into the Fun Hub for Foundations. I will go down to the unit that we're teaching, which is going to be Unit 12, Week 1. I'll make it a little bit smaller so I can read it. And then I simply just look at the day 1 and I see what we're going to be doing. So the drill sounds in warm-up, if I'm doing the 3-part drill, I will skip this because we don't need that part. And then it looks like we are teaching syllable division. So tell students words are made up of parts, sounds go together to make each part. We'll talk about how the word cat has 1 part made up of 3 sounds and catnip has 2 parts. We kind of already talked about this when we talked about closed syllables. So this will be a good little review here. I might do some of those same activities. And then it shows me some of the words I should write on the board to have students practice. So I basically read through day 1 pretty quickly, and then I make slides based on what I want to teach them. This way, I basically use the slides for my entire lesson plan. Again, this is why I've been enjoying my first year back doing daily lessons, because this lets me see how I want to plan the day. And then when I go ahead and pull up these slides on Monday, I know exactly what I'm doing because I already walked through the plans. So let me read this and go ahead and start planning. All right, popping in because I just finished the phonics slides for Monday. That only took me about, 6 minutes, I think, to do Monday's slides. And again, it really helps me just kind of go through the manual, see what I'll be teaching that day, and the slides guide me. Now, for sure, I could teach without the slides. I'm not recommending that everybody does use the slides, but personally, I love them. I love having the visual up there. And it's just, again, it's a great guide for me and for the students because it's so nice and visual. So let me show you what I did for phonics for Monday. Also, I'm sure you could see that I typically just watch some sort of show on in the background because it helps me pass the time, and I like to, just catch up on my shows over the weekend. So right now I'm watching The Challenge. Okay, so we'll do the 3-part drill, which I already showed you. For this, and again, I go ahead and add all the animations too. We're gonna do a little syllable review. I had done this back when we learned about closed syllables. So we have cook. I'll ask students to hold up a finger or how many fingers for how many syllables they see. 1. Then we'll check it. Bagel, 2. Park, 1. Elevator, 4. Waffles, 2. Keys, 1. Microphone, 3. And syrup, 2. And then we're going to go right into blending. So students are very used to these sounds. So they're going to see a letter and they will say what the sound makes. B-a-th. What's the word? Bath. And then we see bathtub. And then I will show students how I scoop it into 2 syllables. Again, just adding these little visuals here remind me of what I am teaching them. We'll talk about how each of these is a syllable. So this is a 2-syllable word. I will also go ahead during this time and point out that these are both closed syllables, and I will mark them in the way that Foundations does, which they put a C down here. And I'll do this with my whiteboard on the smartboard. My marker on the smartboard. And I will put a brev over the 2 short vowels here. So we'll kind of review that as well. Then we'll try another one. Nap. What does nap mean? And then we have napkin. Napkin, how it changes what the meaning is. We have 2 syllables again, and both of them are closed, so we will mark it up. And then we'll do one more, up and upset, same thing. And then I always usually leave these lines here. These are the Foundations writing lines, because after this, I will have students practice writing some 2-syllable words. Now in Foundations, they already have the manual at the back with a ton of word options for us to practice writing. So I will give them a word, we will count out the syllables, and then break it apart, write each one, and mark them up. And that'll bring us right to the end of phonics and into snack and recess. Now, the next few slides are easy, so I'll whip through those, and then I will talk to you about the win slides, which usually take me the longest. All right, so all I had to do there is I didn't have to touch the snack and recess slide. For the read aloud slide, since our objective is just to be introduced to nonfiction text, I simply just put that up there, and I find a cover image of the actual book we're reading to put that up there. And then for reading centers, those are all going to be the same. I simply will print out a worksheet for the worksheet bin. The task cards I already have. The roll and read game, I will make those when I get there on Monday. I just write the words on Post-it notes. And find the fish, I will use the same heart words that we did from the week before. I always like to do 2 weeks in a row with those. So not much prepping and planning there. The only thing I did was I went into Seesaw and I just searched the library real quick for some syllable review activities. Each day, Monday through Thursday, I assign a Seesaw activity for students to do after they finish their reading center. I took out students' names, of course, so I will just copy and paste that slide because I have 2 rotations for reading centers, and a different group is with me at the back table. So now let's dive into WIN. And I just remembered, because I totally forgot, that on Friday before break, I actually already went in and decided what I wanted to do for WIN. So let me show you how that works. All right, since I already did this for WIN, basically what I do is I have 4 different stations during our What I Need time. And some students will be receiving extra math help, extra reading help. They might get different services based on what they need. But the rest of the students in class with me will go through 4 different rotations. The first one is always independent review. And what I like to do is I go through the TPT products I have. I go through things I have in the math club and literacy club. And I usually pick about 3 worksheets that are going to be best for this week's practice. So this first one here is a mark 'em up. And basically that's a bunch of 2-syllable words that I want my students to scoop the syllables for and then read the sentences at the bottom. Here we have a read and draw. There was a small reptile in the hole. Tom likes to play baseball at the lake. Jane had a cupcake in her backpack. And the black and white dog was in a bathtub. So each sentence has some 2-syllable words here, and they have to just draw a picture of what it says. And then for math, which we haven't gotten there yet, but we are doing numbers to 120. So this is a 1 more, 1 less, 10 more, 10 less worksheet that I have in my numbers to 120 unit. And then for independent writing, we're going to talk about spring. This is going to be an opinion piece I want them to write. They will listen to this read aloud, the thing about spring, and then they would share a spring would you rather. I actually printed out a bunch of different would you rather spring-based cards, and they will pick one from the writing bin and they will go ahead and share their opinion. For math, since we are really focusing on place value again, we are going to play spin and color. We already played this once with numbers to 50, so now we're going to do it with numbers all the way to 90. And they just have to spin both spinners, find the number and color it, and they do this with a partner. And last, their collaborative station is always reading. So of the 4 days, Monday through Thursday, each student will be in one of these kind of rotations for them to do. Now, I didn't mention this yet, but basically as I choose these, and since I did this last Friday, I don't need to do it now. As I decide and look through which worksheets I want to use, I actually just print them out over on my printer right here. So I print them out so I have a full copy of them. And that way I'm ready to make copies on Monday morning. I actually think I already made copies of these too, so I really saved myself some time, even though I forgot that I did that. But I believe I already made these packets. But normally what I would do is, as I told you, I printed out these plans here. So I actually keep a master copy of these plans along with any individual worksheet that we'll be using. And I kind of paper clip them all together and I store them in my filing cabinet as well. So not only do I have digital plans, but I have the paper copies too. And I figure this will help me next year. That way I don't need to print out all the master copies again, find where I got them, because you know, some of these are from like a unit of 30 pages and you only need just one little page. So I'll print it out and keep a copy here. But this is usually the hardest part because I really think hard about what I want these 4 activities to be. Thankfully, these just get copied and pasted from day to day. So Monday through Thursday, I will simply, these slides won't change at all. And students will just move to the next column to make sure they're doing those activities on the following day. All right, after when is lunch and recess, that slide stays the same. And now we go into math. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with foundations. I'm going to pull up my Math in Focus book here, and I'm going to look at what we are supposed to be teaching that day to help plan out what math talks I want to do at the beginning, the little warm-ups, and then I will make slides based on what we're going to teach. So let me do that. All right, math is done. That took another 10 minutes. Like I said, Monday always takes the longest for sure. And then I kind of know what we're up to, especially on a Monday when we're starting new units for every single subject. Because throughout the rest of the week, a lot of these warm-ups and different activities will just copy and paste with slight changes. So let's take a look at what we're doing on Monday. For the math warm-ups, I decided I wanted to just do some quick images with 10s and 1s. So since we are going to be practicing a lot of counting, let's take a look at this. So for the slideshow, I will click it. I'll tell students I will count to 1, 2, 3, and then I'll cover it up. And I will ask students to share how many they think they saw, how many 10s, how many 1s, and then we can go ahead and reveal it. And then we'll do this again for another one. 1, 2, 3, cover it up. Write down our answers. I'll write them over here, and then I will reveal it and see how many we could get to. And then I'm definitely keeping a 3 add-end addition problem. I mentioned this before, but these have been amazing for decomposing numbers and really just working on these skills. So here, there's so many different ways students could go ahead and solve this. They could see a doubles fact. They could break the 4 into 3 and 1 and make a tens fact and then add on. They could do the doubles fact and then see that 8 and 7 is a near double. So I know that they will come up with some great strategies to use for that. Then when we go into our math block, we can count numbers up to 120. That's going to be our objective. I will have a bag with a ton of cubes in them inside of it, and I will just show on the board here, look at all of these cubes. What are some ways we can count this up? Now, we have done this before when we talked about counting up to 40. So I'm looking for students to say that we can group the numbers to count faster. And this will be the next slide. We can group numbers by 10 to make it easier to count. So that is what we'll practice doing. So when I say that, I will then take all my cubes here that are, physically in a bag on the floor, and I will group them into tens, and together we will count up how many we had. Then students will go off with a partner and they will have mystery bags. I think I'm going to have 6 different bags with different numbers in them. That students will kind of rotate through to each bag. There'll be a couple at each one in case students move quicker. And they will be challenged to count up how many are in each bag by grouping them by tens first. So they'll have to go ahead and group them by 10 and then count the tens and ones and write down each one. And then I will, after everybody comes back to the rug, I will write down the answers of how many there were in each bag so each group can check them. And then we'll go into our independent practice. So the independent practice is going to come from their Math in Focus book. We always have a little independent practice at the end, whether it's from their book or it's just a worksheet. But here the book is nice and easy. It explains what to do. They will circle the groups of 10 and then count on. We'll also talk about, I forgot to say this here, we will make a guess first. Actually, maybe I will, this is what I'll do. Here, I'll put a big question mark here so I can talk about estimating first. Like, how many do we think there are? Let's not count yet. And then we'll group and check. So they can make an estimate and then count them up. And then music is our special. Now, time to go into writing. Hi, Sally. Okay, so we are done with writing and science, and Monday's planning is all done. It looks like I just finished an episode of the challenge, so that took 45 minutes, which was way longer than it would normally take me to do one day of planning. But I was kind of moving slowly, and I'm also checking in and filming and trying to screen share. So it definitely takes a little bit longer doing it this way. But realistically, I would say each week I probably spend anywhere between 2 and 3 hours making these plans for the entire week. And I try to do it, when the kids are playing video games downstairs or relaxing and don't really need me to do anything. Also, like I said, I go pretty slowly and leisurely because I like to just catch up on my shows, and I do this in the background. So for me, while an extra 2 to 3 hours of planning might sound horrible to people, and I fully understand that, to me, this is just a really kind of simple and easy way to do it, because instead of sitting up in my bed watching TV or over on the couch watching TV, I'm just here in my office planning and watching TV anyway. So for me, it's kind of relaxing, and I really like to plan this way. So let me show you what we did for writing. So music was our special, and then for writing, we do our writing warm-up. I'm going to move them into informative sentences. We have written narrative sentences, and we have done opinion sentences, so I'm going to move to this warm-up now. These writing warm-ups, I have a ton of them here. These are, let me pull it up over here. Basically, I will explain that since we are going to learn about informative writing is when we are teaching someone something or they are telling us something that is factual. So they will need to look at the picture and share an informative sentence. So not an opinion, not a story about what's happening, but something that they can tell me, like a fact about the picture that's being shown. So we'll do this together. I will write one here on the board, and then as always, we will check for cups capitalization, understanding punctuation, and spelling. So the first one I'll just come over to, I will have students actually bring their whiteboards and markers to the rug. We've been doing that a lot now. So I will have them share their own sentence. Okay, then after our writing warm-up for our real writing lesson, we will learn what a research project is and choose an animal to research. So this will be exciting because I will explain what our project is going to look like for the rest of the year. I'll explain a little bit about what will go inside the research project, how we are going to be researchers, and we have to find out all this information about our animals. Now, also during today's lesson, I will have a ton of nonfiction books about our animals, these ones right here. I will have them all spread out around the room, and I'll give students a good 15 minutes to go explore. And then at the end, they will come up here and I will do like a random spinner to make sure it's randomized how my students go ahead and pick their animal, but they each only get to pick one. So they will pick an animal that is left up here, and that will be their animal to go ahead and research. Once they do find this animal, I'll give them their little fact sheet, and the sheet just has a bunch of QR codes with different links to all sorts of ways that they can research their animal. So I will have, paper books that they can actually hold in their hands, real books, and then they'll have access to an EPIC library, they'll have access to Pebble Go, San Diego Zoo, all these fun places to research more about their animal. So they won't be doing any writing today, but they will choose their animal and get started learning a little bit about them. And then for science, we will identify ways to take care of our Earth. It is Earth Day on Monday, so I just have a little read aloud here, Earth Day every day. We will talk about ways we can take care of our Earth. We'll probably do that on an anchor chart, and I will make sure I write them up. And then I found this free little craft over on TPT where they will color in their Earth and then just share 3 easy ways they can take care of the Earth. And I'll probably hang these up in the classroom. So voila, that is planning of a Monday. Now, like I said, I obviously still have 4 more days to plan, but they won't take nearly as long, and I'll kind of do it leisurely throughout the day. I have a facial in a few hours and I need to go check the chicken eggs. So I was going to take a little break and have some lunch right now. Actually breakfast, I didn't really have breakfast. So I think I'll make myself some avocado toast and just relax before I go ahead and finish up those plans. Now, basically I will take the Monday's plan, I will just make an exact copy of it, and then I just change out the lunch options. I change out the morning meeting a little bit depending on what the activity is. That takes like less than a minute for each of those. And then I'll do the same process for foundations, for math, and for writing, where I actually take a look at what we're teaching and I make the new slides. Now, again, it's going to be way faster because I already know what the skills are. I kind of know the trajectory and what we are leading into. That's everything I look at on Monday. So I'll know what I'm typing up a lot faster. And then on Friday, these skills are a little bit different because we often do, oh, it got really dark. There we go. Because we'll often do it for WIN instead of the stations. We do a catch-up day. And instead of writing, we do free draw Friday. So Friday only takes, 10 minutes to plan and make all the slides. But that is how I plan for the week. So I hope that was an informative type video. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments below. Questions about how I plan things out, questions about the things I was making on Google Slides, just let me know. For a lot of the images, I use the snipping tool on the computer. So if I'm finding like a worksheet, I'll use the snipping tool, grab a copy of it so they can see exactly what it looks like, and then I put it right into my slides. But yeah, time to go have some breakfast and check the chickens. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up so I know. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel and click that bell. That way you're notified of every new video. See you in the next one. Bye.